Hello, hosses and hossettes. Welcome back to Honor Thy Podcast for the first time this season. We recorded an episode about halfway through and I forgot to upload it, so fuck that.
Yep. This man's fault. It was. I've still got this thumbnail that I made for it up on the Discord that we're currently on. I'm just like, oh, this little bastard didn't upload it.
Yeah, I completely forgot. I probably still have the files, to be honest. If you want to upload it about 8 weeks late, we can do that. It's fine. Yeah, that was an odd episode. Anyway, welcome back to the first time this season. We are now basically a whole season and a crossover later. And Crisis on Infinite Earths, no less, has been and gone. And yeah, we've had the first half of the Arrowverse this season. I guess, obviously, as you'll be able to tell by the title and whatnot, this is our big Crisis on Infinite Earths spoiler talk, spoiler cast, whatever you want to call it. But before we dive into that, I guess what we could do is just talk briefly about each of the shows so far and how they've been. So, I mean, do you want to start off with our favourite Supergirl? Right.
From what we've watched of it,
let me just say, I think that the most ringing endorsement we can give Supergirl this season for both of us is that we both stopped watching it. We both no longer watch it.
At least we can agree on something for once.
Yeah, I mean, I got further than you did. You didn't even get past like episode 1, did you?
I got up to that episode that was on Corridor Crew. I can't remember which episode that was.
That was like episode 3 or 4, something like that.
Yeah, so around about there, I stopped.
Yeah, and I got to about 6. I think I started watching episode 6, and I thought this is effing boring. I'm done. Yeah, Supergirl season 5 has been absurdly boring. And it's a real shame because we actually thought after the end of last season, oh, maybe it's redeemed itself. Maybe we can go somewhere. But no, it's gone back to its boring old self. And yeah, it's just. And yeah, I mean, you spoke about the Corridor Crew thing. The CGI this season, good God. I mean, that scene alone is just. Even people who don't watch the Arrowverse became aware of this. Like this became viral. This clip that went around. It is truly shocking. I don't know what's more terrifying, that or Cats. I don't know.
I mean, Cats was a pretty disturbing experience. So
good God.
I think Cats just about takes it.
God, Cats. So yeah, Supergirl this season, not very good. I'd go as far to say it's pretty bad. So yeah, and we both stopped watching it. So that is. I might come back for the 100th episode. Maybe I might watch that one. I might watch I might watch the one where Winn comes back just because I want to see him. But other than that, I'm kind of done with Supergirl.
Same. It feels like it's just been taken over by the people who wrote season 1 and 2. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I thought maybe we were on the right path, but no.
Nope. We're back to square one, ladies and gentlemen. We are back to the god awful show that it was in the beginning.
Yeah. And then we have Batwoman, which I don't know. How far have you got into that? Have you watched it?
I'm all caught up now on Batwoman.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I've only watched the pilot because I watched the pilot and I wasn't like super impressed with it, and I didn't want to get super invested in it like I did with Supergirl, so I just kind of stopped watching it. So I guess I'll let you talk about that then.
Yeah. I think first off, Batwoman, first off the season has been flawed. There's definitely problems with it, but it has gotten better as the season's got along. I think the best part of it by far is the villain we have in Alice. She's easily the best part of the show. Honestly, without her, I don't think I'd be watching up until this point, really, because even though the episodes have gotten better, it's not the kind of show where you see a lot of potential in it that makes you want to really keep on watching on a weekly basis. I'll probably see it out for this season, but after then, I generally don't have a clue. I don't know where I stand. I don't even know how I would if I could give it a grade so far and what I've seen. I struggle because I've got so many problems with it. Like the fight choreography at times is really good, and then there's other moments where you literally cannot see a thing. Like Ruby Rose in the main role, she's all right, but she's nothing outstanding. I don't know. I just find it should be so much better than it is. That's all I'll say. It's enjoyable, but it's nothing outstanding.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I watched the pilot and I didn't think it was terrible or anything. It was fine. I just didn't really care for it enough to kind of come back to it, so I just kind of left it there.
Yeah, I'll mention one extra thing as well. That they use this horrible grey filter over the show as well, and it looks proper ugly. Really, really bad. It's the same problem I have with Titans, where they have that horrible blue filter of everything.
Yeah.
Except with Batwoman's, it's grey. So it has
Arrow last season with the flash forwards.
Yeah, it's not good at all because it saps all the colour from the screen, which I can understand because you're doing Batwoman and you want to be more serious, but can you do it in a way that's not as like visually assaulting on my eyes? Like, God.
Are they still doing? Because I remember in the pilot there was like these flashbacks that for some reason someone turned the frame rate down to like 0. Are they still doing that? Is that?
No.
Good.
It's kind of I think they might be there for the second episode, but then after that, no, they dropped the whole ridiculous frame rate thing.
Because like that was honestly horrific to watch. I was sat there just like, this is worse than like a lot of big budget Ubisoft games on a regular PS4. This is like, horrible.
Don't worry. They get better in frame rate wise. But yeah,
tragic. And then Legends of Tomorrow hasn't started yet, so we'll get to that later, I suppose.
If we ever watch it, literally, if this first episode is awful, I'm out. I'm not gonna watch the season.
Yeah, I mean, I said that I wasn't gonna. When the trailer first came out, I said I'm not even watching it. As time's gone on, I've thought to myself, I'll give it a go. I'll watch I'll watch the first episode. If it's terrible and it's just like season 4, yeah, I'm not gonna continue with it. Especially because, I mean, they released the poster yesterday, and it's just like I can already tell. I'm just like.
I mean, the only positives of that poster is the fact that there's no Gary or Mona on it. That's the only thing that gives it any sort of credibility.
So they've ruined Gary. I used to like Gary as a character. He was funny.
Now they've overused him.
Yeah. Then they just made him like a regular for no bloody reason. Flash. We can talk some positive now. Flash has been good this season. Thanks to the GOAT that is Eric Wallace.
Yeah, Eric Wallace has literally just come in, picked all the crumbling pieces that fucking Todd Helbig had made, and he's restored the show back to what it was.
Yeah,
this is a damn good season.
For carrying the season on his shoulders.
Yeah,
the way he's just able to use all the characters in the right way and make them all interact with each other in the right way, and just giving us new interactions as well. It's felt like a fresh show again, and it's felt like this is the best it's been since season 2. It's been so entertaining to watch. I loved Ramsey in the first half as the villain. I thought he was great. Especially like, even though he was slightly underdeveloped, I guess, for what we got of him, I really liked him. And I just think as well, it's mainly the character work that they've done. Like Iris.
The characters are the best that they've been in years because they've actually got development. And we get to see them interact with each other in really cool, interesting ways. It's almost as like we actually have a good writer as the showrunner of this show.
I know, it's such a beautiful thing that you don't know you miss until it's gone. Because even it's just like you get so many different character interactions that you never got. Like normally in the past couple of seasons, it's always been the same characters basically partnered up. So obviously it'd be like Barry and Iris, Caitlin and Cisco, Ralph and like Sherlock, whatever. Whereas now you get like a lot of like Ralph and Iris stuff, and all different combinations of people, which is really fun to watch because it makes things feel fresh and more dynamic. So yeah, Flash I think has been awesome so far this season. Not like amazing or groundbreaking, but just it's been nice for it to actually go back to the quality that it was in the first couple of seasons that made us all like it in the first place.
Yeah.
And then Arrow season 8. Now this is interesting. This is an interesting one for me. If I said that I wasn't underwhelmed by Arrow season 8 so far, I would be lying. I think you're a bit more positive on it than I am.
Yeah, I'm weird with this season because it's got a lot of problems to it. Like with a lot of it, I think the season really suffers from having to basically be a prelude to Crisis. That's the biggest problem with it, and also as well, just also having to set up like things such as obviously the potential spin-off show with Mia and Laurel and Dinah. I think that's been the biggest crutch of this season. If they just removed all of that and they had all that extra time to really like have its own story, then I think this season honestly would be rivaling like season 1 and 2. It has the potential to be that good. Like they're my biggest problems with it. Like the flash forwards in the first 3 episodes, didn't like. Mia, I still don't like. Like, and a lot of the future characters when they got brought to present day, did nothing and haven't done really anything of note. But even with me saying that, I'd be lying if I didn't say that the season's had some killer moments. Like the episodes have been really good for the most part. I'd say maybe episode 4. Every episode this season, in my opinion, has been really good or great at a minimum.
Yeah, I think season 8 for me has just been a bit of a weird one because I've not enjoyed. I mean, this was my worry going into it, is that it was just going to be set up for Crisis, and that's exactly what it is. And also, it's pulling double duty because it's doing that, and it's also, like you say, setting up the spin-off. And I feel like with them setting up the spin-off, they've sacrificed so much character development for the other characters on the show who we actually care about.
Yeah. Because Dinah and Renee have had nothing to do the whole season.
Yeah, there's so many interactions. Like, I remember such a big one that sticks out to me is episode 5, which was an episode I didn't love. But episode 5, there's this whole storyline with Diggle and Roy. And that entire storyline felt very disingenuous to me because I don't think Diggle should have been in that role doing what he was doing. It should have been Oliver. But they couldn't use Oliver because he was too busy with his kids. And I feel like bringing them in, it was just such a nightmare-inducing experience. I mean, I guess it was better because they removed the flash forwards, but then it just completely squandered everything else. Like all the other side characters on the show have literally had nothing to do. Like, even Diggle hasn't had that much to do. And then you've got, like, even Lila has had more to do than Diggle, which is crazy. Dinah, absolutely nothing. Renee, nothing. These characters who, have been on the show for at least, Oliver and Diggle been there from the beginning. Renee and Dinah have been here for a few years. They've literally give them nothing to do, and it's been really annoying for me. And the other big issue I have is that this season of Arrow, while I've enjoyed like the individual episodes as kind of like a standalone thing, it's not felt like a season of Arrow at all. And I feel like that for the final season of, my personal favorite show of all time, I'd want it to feel like it's its own show and like actually feel like it was giving a true ode to itself, which in a lot of ways it is with like the with the fan service and stuff like that. But there's more to fan service than just kind of chucking a bunch of characters and on the screen and stuff like that. I want it to actually feel like the show, and it doesn't feel like the show, and that's been very disappointing for me. So while I have enjoyed it, and like I said, there's been some banging episodes. Like episode 1, amazing. 6 was great. 7 was great. It's just, it hasn't felt right to me, and I have been quite disappointed with season 8 on the whole.
No. To be fair, and this is gonna sound weird, but I kind of relate a lot of the problems that I have with this season of Arrow to my problems with Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, both of which I still really like, but they're heavily flawed. Like, even though I enjoy season 8 way more than you do, I cannot lie that there's a lot of problems with it. Like you mentioned, the character development has not been enough. I feel like this season, with the low episode count, has been moving at such a quick pace that it's never really had a proper moment to really slow down and have like character development. The only episode that really felt like that was episode 6, but that was mainly for Oliver and Laurel, which was great. But I wish we had more of that with the other characters.
Yeah. Because
instead it feels like everything's moving so quickly because obviously we've only got 10 episodes. We have to settle these things up. We have to set up Crisis and all of that. And yeah, I do wish we had more episodes. I think that is the ultimate crutch of this season. If this season had more episodes, I think it honestly would solve a lot of the problems that we have with the show. But even then...
I actually don't think that's the issue. I think that because, one of the things we've been saying for years, these shows are too long, and when they announced that season 8 was 10 episodes, we were all singing their praises. I don't think the episode count's the problem. I think it's purely down to the fact that they've tied this so heavily into different things. They've got 2 different things going on that they're trying to set up.
Well, yeah,
it's distracting from everything. Because I think if this was like the same, let's just say this was season 7, it had nothing to do with crossover or whatever. It was just normal season and it was 10 episodes. It'd be tight as hell and it'd be great. because one of the main things I want to see wrapped up is I want to see the relationship between Oliver and Diggle officially wrapped up and tied up. But that's really not happened. I mean, you had the first episode where they were together, and then everything after that they were kind of separated. And then in episode 7 they come back, and you get that like goodbye scene, which granted is fantastic and it was emotional, but they have that, and then the next time, that's kind of the last time Diggle sees Oliver as Oliver, because the next time he sees him, he's the Spectre, and then he's dead. And like even in Crisis, obviously we'll get to Crisis in a little bit, but when Sarah goes back to the bunker and she just finds Diggle like crying, like he's crying his eyes out, saying like he's died twice, I wasn't there for either of them. And like it feels weird to me that like Diggle he didn't get to say goodbye to him, he didn't get to he didn't get to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, but then I think with that as well, playing devil's advocate, we do have to wait till the finale, because there's every bit of a chance that we could actually see him say goodbye to Oliver in some way or another in the finale. So I probably reserve my judgment for that until the season ends.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's just that if they wanted it to have it this way, and to have it where Arrow had all these things, then they simply they needed a longer episode count. It can work with 10 episodes, and I understand what you say. If they wanted to make it work with the episode count they had, they needed to get rid of all the Green Arrow and the Canary setup. And for me, and I know this sounds bold, and I mentioned this to you beforehand, I think they should have just left Arrow out the crossover so that it could just focus on ending its story in the best way possible without any worry of having to set up anything else. Because with all my favorite shows that have had great final seasons, the great thing about them has been that they've not been so reliant on having to set things up constantly. Like, for example, the final season of Banshee doesn't really set anything up. It's a shorter season, just like the season of Arrow, and yet they just focused on wrapping up every character, every storyline. The same thing with Breaking Bad. It didn't try to set up any spin-offs. Yeah, we got Better Call Saul afterwards, but it's a prequel. Breaking Bad wasn't trying to set shit like that up. What it was doing was just focusing on ending its own storyline. It didn't try to go outside of that box. And that's why those final seasons felt so focused and were so good. The problem with Arrow inherently is because of the fact it's part of this large universe, it has to end its storyline whilst also setting up these other things. And it's just too much for them to do. Like, they needed to either stick with that formula, but you'd have to extend the season, or if they wanted to do it for 10 episodes, you just make Arrow completely separate from everything else. For me, those are the only two options they had, and they tried to do something like in between. It's not worked to the best of their ability.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a strange one, because they've just been trying to do. I just think they've been trying to do too much in a short amount of time, and it's just come across as a bit bloated and a bit. Yeah,
just like Rise of Skywalker, which I still love, but like I say, I have similar problems with both things.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting comparison, Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I loved Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I to be fair, when I watched Rise of Skywalker, I mean, I've seen that film 3 times now, and I've just kind of, every single time, I wasn't going into it critically or anything like that. I just wanted to watch it as a Star Wars fan. I was like, just give me a nice conclusion, and I loved it. So I did like it more than Arrow Season 8, so there you go. At least so far. Who knows what will happen. But anyway, that's the season so far, wrapped up. So we'll see how they continue going forward. So, anyway, obviously the big thing about this season across all the shows has been the build-up to Crisis, and we've now had all 5 parts. This is the biggest crossover they've ever done. So, overall, I think Crisis has been underwhelming to poor.
I wouldn't say poor, but definitely underwhelming, especially given it's the end game of the Arrowverse. And whereas, Infinity War / Endgame, and whilst those 2 movies were worth it, they were worth all that build-up and payoff, this wasn't. The first half especially, like the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
No, not at all. The only episode I honestly say, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but the only episode from this that I honestly thought was great was episode 4.
Yeah.
Every other episode has great moments, but great moments don't make a great episode.
Yeah. I mean, especially talking about the first 3 episodes, I do agree episode 4 is by far the best. Episode
Also fittingly, the Arrow episode.
The Arrow episode, yeah. I mean,
and that's not us being fanboys.
No, it just happened to be. It was the best episode. It had like the amazing final battle, like that battle, which is like at the dawn of time. I loved that battle sequence. That was awesome. Like the music was so good. The way they were all choreographed.
They reused the music from the Slade versus Oliver fight at the end of season 2, which made me very happy.
Yeah, and it just had all the great characters fighting together. I really enjoyed it, and obviously it did end with Oliver's death, which was such a brilliant scene. I honestly loved his death scene. Like, even though I mean, I'll get into this a bit later, and I've said, famously on Twitter and stuff like that, I've really hated the direction they've taken Oliver. But I have to say his death kind of as the Spectre was spectacular. I mean, it was very much the I am Iron Man thing, but it was so good. Like, just hearing that line, you have failed this universe. It was just, I can't lie and say it got a big smile out of me, and I was like ah! Just like screaming in my chair, because of just how cool it was. The fact that he just literally is staring the Anti-Monitor in the face and just uses his classic line, I thought was great. So yeah, episode 4 was definitely the best, but I think the first 3 episodes in particular, you were saying that cool moments don't make a great episode. Like, this whole crossover to me, especially again in those first 3 episodes, they just felt like a bunch of scenes barely strung together by a strong story. Like, there was no there's nothing connecting them. It's just this weird thing.
It was just they just wrote all these great fan service moments, and we're just like, oh yeah, we've got all these moments, how do we interweave them? And they just completely and utterly failed. It's the opposite of Endgame, where the fan service moments came as a result of the story.
Yeah.
Whereas here, they just took the complete opposite approach, and it's just completely backfired. And in a weird way, it's also kind of similar to how the Legends writers fucked up with season 4 compared to season 3, because they did the exact same thing. They substituted moments. They substitute the story just for individual moments, and it just doesn't work, because having great moments doesn't make a great episode. It has to have a great, consistent narrative throughout that helps interlink those moments and make them even better. Whereas if you just have great moments and everything else in between is crap, it makes your episode inconsistent as hell. And that's the problem with the first three episodes. You have these great moments, and then things in between, you're just like, this is just not good.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it's your big annual crossover.
Exactly. I think, because like, so when you get to episode 4 and 5, because they were both on the same night, and I think because they were so interlinked, it's like their story was kind of continuum.
Yeah, because you literally, the end of episode 4 fades to black,
yeah,
and then it's just straight into 5.
Yeah. Whereas the first 3, it's just a bunch of random moments just strung together with a barely connected story. Like, and it gets frustrating when you start looking at the fan service moments start bringing in. Like, for example, I think the biggest thing is like Tom Welling, for example. Like, what was the point? What was the point of having Tom Welling in this crossover other than for fan service? And I'm not saying fan service is a bad thing, but you've got to have a reason for things. Because Michael Rosenbaum, who of course played Lex in Smallville, Tom Welling's co-star, he has come out and he said that he was asked to come in for Crisis, and he asked the writers, I believe it was Mark Guggenheim, of course, he asked Marky Mark, he said, what have you got planned for the character? What's Lex going to do? And apparently they literally said to him, we have no idea yet. And I think that is just completely representative of how they went into this crossover, because they got someone like Tom Welling to come back to reprise the role of Superman, and they literally did nothing with him. He was there for one scene, you find out he's lost his powers, and then we just leave. So it's just like, okay, so we just went to see this random dude, and nothing comes of it. Okay. Also, and I hate to rip on this cameo because I loved it and he kind of stole the crossover for me, but again, completely pointless. Lucifer, what was the point? Other than just to have Tom Ellis show up, which granted, I love Tom Ellis, I've met the guy, he's lovely, and I love him as Lucifer, but just to include him in this crossover, which granted barely makes any sense anyway, but to have him in there just to kind of have this thing so they can get a key to get into this other place. I mean, he had more of a purpose, but again, that character could have literally been anyone. It could have just been this thing where Constantine was like, oh yeah, I know this guy, he's, it could have even got someone from Constantine to come in and do that, but no, they got Lucifer for some reason. So it's all these moments, and again, going back to The Rise of Skywalker, it kind of compares to that where, one of my big problems with The Rise of Skywalker is that I feel like the return of Palpatine was incredibly fan-servicey because they didn't have they didn't have like a draw to get people back in after The Last Jedi, and they didn't have a big villain in the form of like, because they killed off Snoke, so they were like, okay, we need just a fan servicey thing to get people back in, and it doesn't really matter if it doesn't make sense, we'll just sort of do it. And that's what this feels like. They haven't really made much sense, they just kind of do it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a strange one for me.
Nah, it's just it's just how stupid this whole crossover's been. Like, I don't get it. Like, yeah.
And it's just like, I guess I could talk about, like I said, I've hated what they've done with Oliver. I hate it.
You get onto it because I know that you're mega passionate about this. So I'll let you go off and then I'll just echo what you say.
Yeah, it's just. So let me preface this by saying, obviously, you guys know this. Arrow is my favourite show of all time. Oliver Queen is my favourite TV character of all time. I love Oliver Queen. So to see him go this direction...
Become this mythical spectre.
Exactly. Why? Like, if you would have told me when I first started watching Arrow, back in season 1, that at some point he was going to end up being this mythical being who could take on another mythical being like the Anti-Monitor, I'd be like, you're crazy, and not in a good way. It's not one of those things where you hear, like, people talk about the MCU saying, oh, who knew back in Iron Man that it was going to go into this? People are like, oh, you're crazy because it's awesome. No, I would have said you're crazy, and please don't make that happen. If you're from the future, can you go back and you stop them, because this is terrible. Like, if you're going to do this big mythical thing of being the Spectre, right? For one, the Spectre is already a pre-existing character, for one. So much so he's even in this crossover, right? So just use that guy. And two, even if you are going to make a character the Spectre, Oliver Queen is not that character. Oliver Queen is a grounded, realistic character. That's the whole point of the show. That was the whole point of his character. He was supposed to be this grounded, realistic take on the superhero genre, a la The Dark Knight, a la Daredevil. And they just turn him into this godlike, all-seeing, all-knowing, wise space god.
Yeah.
It just feels so out of place. It feels so random. And I get the fact that, yeah, he's the original character and everything like that. He's Tony Stark of this universe, if you will. He's the, it makes sense from that point
of view. But the difference was that Tony Stark didn't need to become some stupid mythical creature to become a legend.
No.
He stayed that same grounded character. Whereas with this, it was just like, because they saw on the Arrow intro, it's like, oh, I have to become something else, someone else. You didn't need to literally do that. You didn't need to literally turn him into basically just this all-powerful entity. He could just be a legend just by him being a grounded hero. And it just feels so stupid. It's like I say, it's just like they just wanted fan service. Just be like, oh, look, he's the Spectre. Wow, look at this. Even though it doesn't really mesh well with the whole premise of Oliver being, like you say, this very grounded hero. And like, even though I liked the way that he went out, it didn't feel entirely satisfying because it just kind of went against everything that the character of Oliver Queen was meant to be. Because especially for me, because I, like, about a month ago, I rewatched the first 2 seasons of Arrow because, in my opinion, they're the best. And you just see those seasons and you just think about what Oliver Queen has become now. It's just... no.
It just doesn't work. And it's kind of funny because it's so against what Arrow's values were and what it kind of stood for back in the day. Like, I've spoken to someone very close to me who, like, she actually wants to watch Arrow, and she's watched a few episodes of season 1 and she really enjoyed it. But she said to me, I don't want to get into this because I know where this is going, and she doesn't care about the Arrowverse. She's like, I just want to watch Arrow, and I want it to be this serious, grounded, cool superhero show, which I've seen in season 1. I don't want it to get all superhero and comic booky when all the other stuff starts happening, and I know that's going to start happening, so I don't want to watch the show. And, especially when you get to season 8, like, you can't really watch Arrow season 8 without knowing the Arrowverse stuff, because it's all connected to it, which, in a way is not a bad thing, but, it's great for someone if you do watch all the stuff, but, for someone who just wants to watch it, again, it just shows that it completely goes against the original show's values.
Yeah, and in terms of just standing on its own, it's just very dodgy in that regard, because if you're going into these things and not having a clue, and the show is basically forcing you to having to watch other shows to understand things, that's not exactly the greatest thing in the world.
No.
Like, it's not exactly my idea of a great show.
No. And it's really strange. It's really odd. Like, especially because if you, like, episode 1, which granted, I love episode 1 of season 8. It's fantastic. It's still my favorite episode of this season. But, like, that episode, if you're not aware of the Arrowverse and you don't know how, like, the multiverse works, you'll be very
lost
confused.
as fuck.
Like my dad is the perfect example. My dad, he watches Arrow, that's it. And that first episode, he was like, I mean, he was happy because his favorite character is Moira and she was back. But he was like, he did
what's
not
happening?
understand. He didn't understand why Tommy was back. He didn't understand why Malcolm was back. He didn't get it. I tried my best to explain it to him. Just didn't get it. And that's a problem. Like, that's a problem that, you know, that they've created on this season, that, you know, if you don't watch the other shows, you're going to have trouble with some things in this. And it also kind of forces you to... This season is kind of forcing you to watch the crossover, because think, like, Oliver is now... If you watch episode 7 and then go to episode 9, straight... Oliver's dead.
What?
Oliver's dead. And it's just... So you kind of have to watch the crossover. Like, again, going back to my dad, like, he's watched the first 7 episodes of this season. He's not going to be watching... Like, he's not... I've told him not to watch the crossover because he's just not going to understand 95% of it anyway. And now he's going to watch episode 9 and, like, Oliver's just dead. So now,
well, technically, he can watch episode 8 because it is technically an Arrow episode, and Oliver does die in that episode.
Well, yeah, but, like, you know, that's smack bang in the middle of the crossover, and
it's all right. They got the recap at the start. He'll be fine.
Yeah. And like half the characters he doesn't even know, so it's just like it's a weird situation. I'm just gonna have to, like, show him the actual death scene on YouTube or whatever. So yeah, it's just it's so strange to me that, like, all this stuff's been happening in this way. It just completely goes against the show's values to me. And with Oliver as a character, it's just completely gone against him, and that's what's frustrated me a lot. It's just how he's ended up, like, him becoming this. It feels kind of rushed. It feels kind of like they just needed, because it feels to me that, like, and someone else brought this up elsewhere, where it's just Oliver as a character has escaped death so much so he's even died in the past already. He died in season 3 and he came back. They needed to, like, give him a genuine kind of reason and, like, a genuine, like, threat for him to get killed off, and I guess this is what they came up with, but that feels really rushed to me and not well thought out. Because I guess if they would have just killed him in the heat of battle, it would have just been like, oh well, he could have died ages ago. But, like, even, like, his first death scene in this crossover,
very underwhelming.
Like, that was underwhelming, but I don't think it was underwhelming necessarily because of the death itself. It was
because of the people he was surrounded by.
The people he was surrounded by, and also we knew, because it was episode 1, we knew he wasn't dead. Like, I said this when it came out, like, the death of Oliver Queen should be the most emotional thing I have ever seen on TV personally, because he's my favorite character. And when he first died, I was just like, I feel nothing, because I knew, again, he had a great death in that. Like, I don't actually mind his death there, because I thought, like, that's really cool. He's the last one standing. I love the shot he reaches for his arrow. Nothing there, and he just, like, screams and runs into the thing. I thought that was awesome, but then he's there on the bed, and he's surrounded by a bunch of characters who barely know him.
Yeah, and it was all just to subvert our expectations.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, in his actual death, like, I actually felt something, because, again, I knew it was actually final, and the characters
because it felt a lot more personal, because it was literally just him, Barry, and Sarah. Barry, obviously, it's like he's the first proper member of this basically Justice League that he knows, and Sarah obviously was with him from the beginning, the beginning of his journey, like, the 5 years.
I mean, again,
so those were two characters Diggle, like where it made sense.
I really would love to have had Diggle there at his death, but whatever. I can take Sarah and Barry, like, I can take those characters. Whereas in the original, like, the only characters there who actually kind of showed any hint of emotion was Mia, who I don't care about, and then Sarah, who was great. But, like, everyone else, Batwoman barely knows Oliver at this point, and all the other characters were just stood around. So it's just like, what? it felt ridiculous to me. So, like, again, that's I know I've gone on quite a bit, but, like, I hate what they've done with Oliver in this crossover.
Yeah, and also one thing that Guggenheim said was that the story of Arrow ends with Oliver Queen's death. I personally don't 100% agree with that. There are ways to end. Be doing a spin-off. Exactly. Like, I just don't feel as if they needed to kill off Oliver to end Arrow in a satisfying way, because the whole point of Arrow is that Oliver has never really truly lived a normal life. He never has done. Ever since he went on the Gambit, he's basically had to survive for himself and become this hero. He's never had a chance to actually properly step back for a long period of his life and just be normal. I feel like they could have just done that, like how they did with with Steven in Endgame, where he got to live out long part. I feel like they honestly should have done the same with Oliver.
Yeah. It's odd to me that they took this choice and just, again, like I say, he's never lived a normal life. And even in season 6, they have that scene where, where he nearly goes to jail and he says, I want to get to a point one day where I can stop and leave this all behind. And they've just never given him that.
Nope.
And it's not like, again, to go back to Endgame, like you said, like with Steve in Endgame, they gave him the chance. Like Oliver, like with Tony Stark, he died because he was kind of making up for all of his sins that he's done, because he was a bad guy in the past. So that kind of made sense for his arc. And he had also, like, in that 5 years in between Infinity War and Endgame, he had lived his life as a father. So it kind of made more sense for him to die, whereas with Steve, like, he has been the goodest of boys for all of his life. If he would have died, it would have been like, what? And Oliver's kind of a similar thing. Like, yeah, Oliver's not like, the biggest Boy Scout in the world, but he wasn't like a bad guy or anything. So, for him just to die, it feels strange. It feels weird. It doesn't feel like it's the right choice for the character. It's like, I imagine them killing Barry in this. It just would have been odd. It wouldn't have felt right. It would have felt, complete. Like, even in The Flash, they've spoken about it this season. Like, there's that great scene with Barry and Joe where, Joe's like, all these good things you've done, all you've done is amazing stuff for this world, for the city. Why is this what you get? Why is your death what you get at the end of this? And I think the same applies to Oliver. Like, Oliver has done so much for Star City, so much for the world, and to end in a death after becoming this godlike being, which he never wanted to become, yeah, shit.
Yeah, shit.
But is there any other negatives that you want to talk about?
Negative wise, Mia was in this crossover more than she should have been.
She was just gone in episode 4 or 5. She's not even there.
Which made me very happy. That's why they were the best episodes.
I'm assuming they'll explain this in episode 9, but is she just gone, like, to the future again? Is she just gone? Because Diggle say Connor's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that. Yeah, I'm guessing they're just.
I guess so. I'm hoping so, because fuck me at the moment. Laurel should have been in this episode. Well, she should have been the whole crossover more, like, way more than she was. Just facts. Yeah, but yeah, if I had to add another one, Laurel should have been in the crossover more.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, way more. Like all this setup for Black Siren, and her redemption in season 8, and all the stuff with the Monitor, and then she's not even in the crossover. And the only time we see Laurel is the Dead Earth 1 version. Like, why? Whose idea with this? What was Googie smoking some proper rolls when he was writing this script? And it's like, oh shit, forgot Laurel.
Reefer.
Oh yeah, he was smoking some serious pot. He was just there writing this script, finished it off. He had a bit of a sniff of his joint and was like, "Oh shit, oh well, don't matter. Just write the Earth 1 version." I didn't
think about that until you just brought it up. Like, yeah, they set up a lot of stuff with Laurel in this season with the Monitor.
Yeah, specifically with the Monitor, like proving her worth to the universe, and she's never involved with the crossover at all. Like once, he didn't even mention her.
Weird that
even like a little mention would have been sort of okay, but to not even get that or even seeing her, really dumb decision. Like, I genuinely believe that.
Like, we literally even go back to the bunker where we see, like, even Dinah and Renee in this crossover.
I genuinely don't know, and that's the thing. If they simply didn't have enough time for a script for it, at least actually like give a piece of dialogue that says where she's gone, but she doesn't get it at all.
Yeah,
the character's never referenced.
So bizarre. Well, I mean, I guess that's negatives out the way, I suppose. So moving over to some positives. I think that obviously I've complained about the fan service, but also as
there were some occasions where it worked.
Yeah,
just one in particular.
Again, Lucifer. Even though it made no sense, I did enjoy it just because I like that character.
Yeah, I heard Tom Ellis say that he says that apparently that scene takes place before Lucifer.
Yeah, that
That's
kind
what
of
he
breaks
said,
continuity a little bit, but whatever. Again, that's just another thing where, again, it was completely pointless, and with that, they kind of screwed the continuity of Lucifer, but whatever. Especially because they've said, like, because he said, like, in that scene that, like, Constantine helped him with Maze, which is a character on the show. So that means that Constantine has, at some point, existed in Lucifer's universe, whatever. It's a throwaway scene, but it's just, again, it just comes across to me as like
It was good. It was
all.
good because it was short and sweet, and Tom Ellis was amazing.
Yeah, he was great. He was fantastic. Like comparing Diggles and Benadryl was amazing. 90s Flash came back and they actually explained where he went. And that was good.
Yeah.
At
least we got that. At least we got that criticism from last year's crossover explained.
Yeah. Because I remember, like, me and you last year, we were all just like, where did he go? He just went. So at least they actually explained it. That was nice.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked his death scene, even though it was predictable. I did like it. I'm not gonna lie, I actually got a little bit emotional as well.
Yeah, because he was a cool character. So it was very short-lived, but like I say, it made sense to kill him. They weren't going to kill Barry, so they had to kill a version of the Flash. They killed him, whatever. So that was cool. We got Kevin Conroy as Bruce Wayne, who I really liked. I thought he was really cool. Like, I got chills when I first heard him speak. I was like, because this is the first time he's ever played Batman in live action. Just seeing him come downstairs, like, even before you see him, you just hear his voice. I was like, oh, that's amazing. That is amazing.
It's just beautiful. So good.
Like, and it was quite a ballsy decision to kind of go down this route with him because he was super dark. He like murdered Superman. And yeah, he was like this super dark, super brooding, and really evil version of Bruce Wayne, which I kind of enjoyed. Yeah, he was pretty cool. I liked him.
Yeah. I think along this we can include the MVP of the crossover, which was Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come Superman.
Oh yes, he was great.
Brilliant. He was the thing that was keeping the first three parts of the crossover together.
He's not even in the last two parts. That's so annoying.
Exactly. I was so disappointed with that as well. They should have brought him back.
But I was confused. I'm confused with Kingdom Come Superman because he's there, and then he's obviously a Paragon, and then he shows up in the Vanishing Point. Turns out it's Lex. What happened to him? Because by the end of the crossover, he's there flying around on like Earth 96 or whatever. So what happened to him? I'm confused. I don't know.
I'm guessing he was restored as well because he's not got the dark symbol on his chest.
I just found that odd. I was like, what point in time did Lex become him? And yeah, I don't know. That it didn't really explain it, but whatever. But yeah, he was amazing. Like seeing that suit looked brilliant. Like yes, it was cheesy, but it looked fantastic. His performance was so good. I forgot how much I love Brandon Routh as an actor, and how much I love him as Superman. His just demeanor, how positive he was. He embodies Superman. That guy. Like even more so than like Tyler, and I love Tyler as Superman, but can we just get screw the Superman?
Give him his own show.
Yeah, can we get this guy on his own show? Because this was something else. I loved it. I loved him so much. I really hope we see him again at some point because he did. I thought he was going to die in this, and he doesn't. So there is actually a chance he could return. So hopefully he does, even though Brandon's leaving the Arrowverse, but whatever. We've already spoken about Tom Welling. We got the introduction of Black Lightning into the Arrowverse, which was nice.
Yeah, it was cool. And plus, with the end of it, he's now on the same Earth as everyone else. But he probably won't return that often because the showrunner for Black Lightning is an absolute dickhead.
Yeah,
because he just doesn't like crossovers at all for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, based on this, I can't really blame him. But I think that like Black Lightning, he fit in super well. It was nice to see him actually finally interact with people. I liked his kind of friendship with Barry. He's kind of made already. I can definitely see like a Flash Black Lightning crossover in the future. Yeah, Black Lightning fit in really well. I really liked his introduction. Yeah, and now he's in the Arrowverse. It can open up some more opportunities, hopefully. So that's cool. And then I think the biggest cameo that shocked everyone came in episode 4.
Oh my god.
Barry is traveling through the Speed Force. He comes out in a random version of Star Labs, turns around, and who does he find? None other than Ezra Miller's Flash. Oh my god, my jaw was on the floor. I could not believe what I was watching.
No, it was crazy. To be fair, I was so lucky because when I saw that scene, I had a YouTube notification that came up just beforehand, and I just swiped it up. I just didn't pay attention to it. I watched it. I was like, oh, that's a really good surprise. Turns out the notification I got whilst I was watching the episode was of a Mr. Certain DC TV show who decided to spoil the cameo in his title. And I was like,
I saw
Ben,
like
you
3
pushed
videos
it.
that morning, like after I watched it, because
I know, and it's
I
just
didn't
like
even
they
look at my
put,
phone.
Ben was putting spoilers in his thumbnail and in the title. I'm just like, Ben, you disappoint me.
Ben,
You almost spoiled it for me, fam. But
Ben,
no,
you
it was
sort of-
amazing. Like, I was just so shocked by the fact they were able to achieve this.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Like, I can't believe that, like, because I've read recently that the Warner Brothers specifically asked for him to be included, which I think is crazy because, like,
Yeah,
for one, they've always said that the movie side and the TV side would never cross over. And also, I think this really cements, like, I basically take this as confirmation that, one, this Flash movie that they're doing is finally on track with Andy Muschietti, and
Yeah.
two, Ezra Miller is the Flash for them. And I've got to say, because I've not been the most positive on Ezra Miller as the Flash, but I've got to say, because I've kind of refined my thoughts on this recently, which is that I really liked him in BVS from the... I mean, he didn't really have any dialogue, but he was cool there. Really liked it, his one little cameo in Suicide Squad. Thought he was awesome there. Now, in Justice League, I'm so hit and miss with him, because there are some scenes that are brilliant with him, and some scenes that are awful. And I figured out what it is. The problem with
It's the
Flash, it's Joss Whedon.
yeah,
I don't want to sound like a release of Snyder Cut shill, because I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is, all the stuff that Zack Snyder filmed, and you can tell the difference because they look different. They're shot differently. All the stuff that Zack Snyder shot, which is in like the original trailer and stuff like that, is really good. He got the Flash right in that, in how he did the humor, how he did the demeanor of the character. Joss came in and rewrote him to be this bumbling, insecure, little incel idiot, which I really didn't like. It's all that stuff I didn't like. Whereas Zack's stuff actually felt more familiar. And to tie it back into this scene with him, I loved.
yeah. Because the comedy was actually good, and he felt like Barry Allen. He didn't feel like a bumbling idiot.
Yeah, he felt like the character I know, and he felt like the character that Ezra played originally, and I was like, this is great. So hopefully, with this film, if it does come out with Andy Muschietti, hopefully they kind of retain this level of humor and what they're doing here, because this was great. But just the idea of having like this exist within this universe is insane, and it was a great scene, like them two interacting with each other, seeing each other's suits and stuff like that. Like, they actually name him the Flash now because he gets the name from R. Barry. So good. Definitely,
Yeah, it was
definitely the most insane cameo. It was mental.
Oh, without a doubt, easily. Like, I was just, like I say, just blown away by it. Completely.
I physically shouted out like, "What?" when I just turned and saw his face, just saw Ezra in the suit. I was like, "How? How have they done this?" And I almost could, like, when I first saw the scene, I was like, I thought they shot it differently. Like, I thought it was shot separately on a green screen, because it kind of almost looked like it wasn't in the same scene. But they've released behind the scenes photos, and no, he was there. Ezra and Grant shot together. I think it must have been something they had with the filter, but yeah, crazy, mental, insane. Now, speaking of other characters, I'll quickly say as well, because obviously we spoke about Batwoman a little bit. Like, obviously, we've been very vocal on this podcast many times about Ruby Rose. I have to say, I actually liked Batwoman in this crossover. I liked her. I thought she was fine.
Yeah, I think during this crossover, this is the best that Ruby Rose has been as Batwoman. I will say that.
I think she's definitely, again, I've not watched the season, but I think it's clear and evident she's improved throughout, which, is something I always said she would. And the other characters for me that stood out, and I am so happy that they did, Sarah and Ray, for me, are the MVPs of this crossover. Yeah. Sarah in particular. Legends has
Sarah was basically the leader, really, kind of.
Yeah, like Legends ruined these characters last season, completely destroyed them. I mean, even though I like season 3 of Legends, like they're not the same characters they were. Legends has completely changed his characters. Oh god, it felt so nice to have them back. It felt so nice,
and to actually see them written properly, like.
Yeah. Like, Sarah is so... Like, Sarah in particular... If I had to choose one MVP, it's Sarah. She was so good in this. Like, the way she comes in, she's taking things seriously. She's being a leader. She's being the character that I know her to be. And she's just badass in this. And, like, the way she... Because one of my favourite, like, interactions within the Arrowverse has always been Oliver and Sarah. Like, every time they get to re-interact, I love it. And this crossover had loads of that, like especially in episode 1, where they first meet for the first time, and like, you know, she finds out Oliver's now got a daughter and stuff like that, and you know, she's saying like how being a dad looks good on him, and we get that amazing scene. I think it's in episode 1 where they go to the alternate Star City. You see like an older Oliver. That scene that they have together is beautiful, and you know, in the last 2 episodes, like you say, Sarah practically becomes the leader of the team, which is so good for me. And she's just leading the charge. She's so passionate, like, and so, you know, determined to kind of get justice for Oliver, and she's, you know, it's all for Oliver and stuff like that. I love it so much, and like Sarah has just been so good, and it's felt so nice just to have her be the character that she was back again, and same with Ray. Like, I remember in the first couple episodes, like seeing Ray not only use his atom suit, which he never doesn't do on Legends anymore, but actually, you know, feel like the nerdy techie guy who's just excited by everything, like he was when he first introduced in Arrow season 3. It feels like that. Oh, I couldn't talk about it enough. Like, it's so nice just to have this feeling again with these characters that I've not had for such a long time. And it's such a shame because I know that, you know, they're going to go back instantly, and, you know, we're going to go to Legends. I've already seen the trailer for Legends season 5, and Sarah's back to being that version of the character. Whereas, oh god, I missed it. I didn't realize how much I missed it, and it makes Sarah so good in this. Like, it really makes Sarah stand out. And yeah, I just, for me, Sarah is easily the best character in this, easily.
Yeah, without question. It's just, like I say, it's just a shame that within a week's time she'll be going back to the poor writing that we've unfortunately got to get used to now for Legends.
Yeah, because she was so badass in this as well. Like, the way she was just acting, the way she was like the leader, like screaming for Oliver in the final battle, and even like there's that shot where like she goes to rescue Ryan Choi and she just busts out like the staff and just like awesome. Oh god, nut. I just think like all those things with Sarah and Ray, just amazing. Because it's kind of interesting because most of the Legends aren't in this. You get a bit of Mick in there, a little bit, and in the final episode they do have a scene with Ava and Nate. I mean, Nate probably would have been handy to have in this crossover, but then again, he doesn't use his powers anymore, does he? So yeah, the Legends were barely in it. I mean, Mick was funny. I mean, Mick was Mick. Like the way he's at his book signing and stuff like that was great. That's one character I do like how Legends have handled is Mick. That's one character I do like, just because he is funny. I do enjoy him there, his book signing and stuff. But yeah, I think it was actually quite nice to not have the Legends there, because the Legends, I think, could have potentially squandered some of the seriousness with this. Because obviously they left him out last time. Because even like that scene with Nate and Ava, like they start making, there was way too many crossover jokes in this. Can I just say, like references to crossover? I don't like it when they reference it. It feels weird to me. It's not.
Yeah, when they try and get too meta. Yeah,
because they're like borderline breaking the fourth wall, and it doesn't work. Like, Legends do it all the time. Like, I didn't mind that joke in Legends last season, in the mid-season finale, where they come in and say, oh, it must be crossover season or whatever. I didn't mind that, because that can always just be used as, like, you know, just saying, oh, they're just using the word. It doesn't actually mean they're relating to it. But they say it all the time now. Like, Renee says, like, is this what crossovers are always like for you guys? And stuff like that. Like, Black Lightning said it well. Like, Black Lightning at the end of the 5th episode, when they set up the Justice League, and he's like, oh, you know, how many times does this sort of happen? And they look at each other. That's a good way of doing it. That's a good way of handling it, instead of just saying it outright. I've completely lost track of what I was talking about. But yeah, I guess we could talk about the Justice League.
yeah, it's cool. Better than the movies version of the Justice League.
You know what? Yeah. So we get Barry in, the Hall of Justice. He rips the towel off the table, and we actually have the table with the 6 chairs, and we have our Justice League. So it's Superman, Supergirl, Martian Manhunter, White Canary, Flash, Black Lightning, Batwoman. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? So
yeah, 7.
Yeah, so that's our awesome team with a spare seat for Oliver, which is lovely. I love this. I actually can't wait till the next crossover so we can actually see like them, if they actually meet here and they have like a meeting around the table and stuff.
Yeah, it's just cool. It's nice that they've actually used that bunker.
Yeah,
because it just showed up for like an invasion, and it's just literally not been used since.
Yeah, it's nice that they're actually finally putting it to good use, putting that money to good use. Because again, like they've had the Hall of Justice sitting there for ages, and they've just not used it. So it's about time. And I'm happy with this. And it feels appropriate after such like a big event like this to really form the team now. It feels good. So I'm really happy about that. And that is an awesome scene. It's such a good scene. So yeah, it's a nice way to kind of bring that all together. And I think again it does kind of confirm that Black Lightning will be in future crossovers, which is nice.
Hopefully.
What did you think about the Anti-Monitor?
Pretty underwhelming villain, to be fair. Didn't get enough of him, especially for the 3 episodes. He literally only showed up at the end of episode 2, and then throughout the beginning and the end of episode 4, and then the end of episode 5. We just didn't get enough with him. They built him up as this big threat, and I think they should have just done a lot more development with him rather than just being this, look at me, I'm Mr. Big Bad.
Like, I thought they were going to do... Because I remember them talking about, like, LaMonica Garrett, who, by the way, LaMonica Garrett's not getting enough attention for this crossover. Like, playing both the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor, he did a good job, yeah. But, like, I remember he was saying, like, episode 4 was, like, the origin story of the Novus. Like, Ma Novu. And I thought, like, oh, is this going to get the origin story of the Anti-Monitor? But it's not. It's just more backstory for the Monitor. Which was cool. I have to say, I really liked the way they kind of described the Monitor as being, like, a scientist. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And making him a time traveler and stuff like that. And he's actually the one responsible for the Anti-Monitor. I thought that was cool and interesting. But other than that, it's like literally they don't explain anything more than that. He's just this threat that shows up. So yeah, he is very underwhelming. I mean, I do like the fact that, you know, because after the Battle at the Dawn of Time, I thought, how are they going to do a fight with the Anti-Monitor after that? Because it's just going to feel underwhelming, especially because I'd seen the trailer where it's just like a typical rooftop fight. I was like, this is going to be bad. But I have to say, I really like the fact they made him grow. Like, they actually did something. Because I was like, if this is just a simple fight scene, this is going to be so underwhelming as the final fight. Whereas I like the fact they actually... Well, it's not as good as the Battle of the Dawn of Time, in my opinion. I like the fact they made him grow and actually did that from the comics and, you know, added a sense of scale. And I have to say, CGI was pretty good. For what it was. I think they did a really good job of like showing the sense of scale, and they allowed the actual characters who could tackle that threat to do it. Like you had Ray and Supergirl and Superman taking it on, which I thought was awesome. So yeah, the Anti-Monitor was definitely underwhelming though. Very weak villain. Very weak villain.
Yeah.
And speaking of other like underwhelming stuff, like the Monitor, I've only just realised now thinking about it, the Monitor died. Like I barely remember.
Yeah, I mean, it fits with the original comics, but yeah.
It's just weird. He just kind of dies, and then we get nothing more of him. Also, one thing that went completely unexplained is Pariah.
Where did he fuck off to?
Pariah was just... Because I'm of the understanding that Pariah was Nash Wells, right?
Yeah, and then, I don't know. I don't even know anymore.
I'm pretty sure he was meant to be Nash Wells. So,
but then it's like when Nash wakes up, he doesn't remember anything.
No, and he's just like, and he's back in his Nash Wells kind of clothes. So, like, Pariah literally shows up, I think, in episode 2 or 3. Like, and he's literally...
End of episode 1 where Oliver dies, he shows up.
Oh, yeah, that's it, yeah. And then he just kind of shows up again one more time to kind of zap everyone. Like, he just shows up. He's in this badass costume. Like, what happened to him? Who is he? Where's he come from? He gives, like, one line of exposition which barely makes any sense. And then he just zaps everyone off. And I'm like, what's this dude's powers? Where's it? What can he do? And then we never see him again. So bizarre. So weird. Yeah, Pariah was something I was very excited to see and I was very interested to see, but they literally just did nothing with him, and I came out with more questions than answers. I love how we just got back into negatives again. Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, sort of bringing this more to a conclusion, like, Crisis, I think they've put too many eggs in one basket with this. Oh, actually, where was bloody Psycho Pirate?
Yeah, actually, oh god, yeah.
What happened to him? That was like a thing.
All that setup, like we were like, I remember we were saying like, oh, they hyped up Psycho Pirate for Elseworlds, did nothing with him, then he teased Crisis on Earth, so like, oh, maybe be a part of that because he is in the comics. He's not here.
Not even in it once.
What the fuck happened to him?
And neither's John Deegan either.
Yeah.
Like they were both meant to be a part of this, I believe. And there's not even a part of it at all. Not a single part.
Oh my god! Like the thing is with Psycho Pirate as well, it's not even like you needed the original actor back because he had a mask on
Yeah.
and like you saw his face for one scene. Like you could have easily just recast somebody else, and just have him in there because it just makes his character even more redundant. Like you'll watch Elseworlds now, you think, who is this guy? Why has he got this setup? They just never see him again.
Ridic. So I think just so many things that were just underwhelming and just too many eggs in one basket. I mean, I said that about Elseworlds with stuff like Psycho Pirate, like all these things they announced and got excited about and then just did nothing with because they just did it for fan service, and that's exactly what this is, but on an even bigger scale. While I would say this crossover is probably better than Elseworlds, probably.
Yeah, no, it's definitely better than Elseworlds. I'll say that for a fact.
It still just kind of has the same problems, just on a bigger scale, and there's just more going for it because they had more time. Like, this has got 2 more episodes than Elseworlds did. So I think it allows itself to kind of breathe a little bit more than Elseworlds did. But I think that overall, as crossover's got some great stuff in it. I did love Oliver's death scene and everything they did for his send-off, even though I hate the direction and the journey we've taken to get to it. The destination itself wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I did enjoy all the stuff with Sarah. Again, best character in this. A lot of the cameos, while some of them were pointless, some of them were great and entertaining. The action was pretty good all the way through. It's just a bit of an underwhelming crossover on the whole, and it feels like all this build-up and all this setup was a bit superfluous at points. And I feel like that they have slightly dropped the ball, which is a shame. I was hoping this was going to be like Endgame, where for me, I didn't find Endgame disappointing in any way, shape, or form. It paid off brilliantly. And again, like The Rise of Skywalker, I absolutely loved as a conclusion. Whereas this, I just feel like it kind of came and went, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, same. It's just they hyped it up that much. It needed to sit the landing, and it just didn't do it. It's not a bad crossover, but it's far from a great crossover as well. It's just the tools that they had to make it great.
It was fine.
Yeah, and it's just strange how just a lot of the same criticisms I had, like you mentioned, with them seemingly prioritizing fan service moments over story, just the same kind of problems that we had from last year, but it's just more disappointing because they repeated it again. And for a crossover this bigger scale, it's just even more underwhelming. And I think another reason as to why these last 2 crossovers have been really underwhelming, and people will criticize me for saying this, but I think it's the absence of Andrew Kreisberg. I think that's also played a big role in this as well. Because you think about it, all the great crossovers we had, like Invasion and Crisis on Earth X, all written by him. And ever since he's gone from the Arrowverse, these crossovers, they just haven't been as good. Like, I'm going to say it now, I think Elseworlds is probably my crossover behind, behind the Heroes United one.
Yeah.
It was terrible, and this one's just disappointing, and there's a part in that. I mean, yeah, that's disgusting and all, but you can't take anything away from the fact that the guy clearly knew how to write a crossover and how to structure it, because these kind of problems that we've had in these last 2 crossovers, they aren't in Crisis on Earth X, they aren't in Invasion. So, and like, he's the only missing real piece from it, that was there before. So, I don't know. It's just proper underwhelming, and it's just a shame because this crossover it should have been a lot better than it was.
Although I will say, do you want to know the best moment of this crossover?
What?
There's a moment when Mick Rory is in the Arrow bunker, and Renee says, "We had a Rory on our team once."
Oh, I knew you were going to say this.
We got a Ragman reference. We got one.
I don't.
Why was
no one?
This? Why was
no one? No one cares about Ragman. Cares about.
Think about what Ragman could have done in this crossover. He could have been. He's OP as hell.
But his rags are gone.
They might have been repaired. We don't know that. He's gonna be in the finale anyway, so I don't care.
For like one scene where everyone's going around the statue. I guarantee you right now, I bet you 10 quid he does not have a line of dialogue.
Don't matter. As long as I get to see him, that's all I care about. I mean,
casual.
I still think, season 7 is ultimately the best season of Arrow because they brought him back for like 2 seconds. I'm just happy we got a reference to him. Like, literally, when they referenced him, I literally had a massive smile on my face. I was like, Ragman. But yeah, like there are also like there's some missing characters in this. Like obviously, like the one that everyone's thought about is Reverse Flash. They literally set him up to be in this like for the past 6 years, but he's just not in it for some reason. Wally West, huge one. I mean, we knew Wally wasn't gonna be in this anyway, but I think he should have been really. Ragman should have been in it. Yeah, just big characters like that. There's some big characters just missing from this, which was strange. Like for this big ultimate like crossover event, you'd think they would bring like some people back. Like I thought we were gonna see like an alternate version of Firestorm come in at some point. Like I miss Firestorm. I miss Firestorm. I really miss Firestorm.
I've just seen something on Twitter as well. Paige has just ranked all the Arrowverse crossovers, and he's put Crisis on Infinite Earths at number 1. I'm sorry, Paigey, but that is a retarded opinion. Facts.
God, today I've seen a ranking with Duet at the top and Crisis at the top. Why is no intellectual on Twitter? Crisis on Earth X is the only intellectual choice.
I told you, some people they just aren't on our level. That's what it is.
Oh, God, I'm going to struggle to recover from that. Yeah. I guess you can tell by our voices we're pretty disappointed.
Not mad, just disappointed.
Yeah, not angry. Well, apart from the Oliver thing, I'm very angry at that. Other than that, yeah, just disappointed. Just disappointed. But yeah, what did you guys think about Crisis on Infinite Earths? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Should be interesting. Because I know we are in the minority. I do know we are in the minority. It seems like most people have loved Crisis and have been enjoying it, at least from what I've seen. People seem to be really enjoying it, had a great time with it. Not us, though.
Linking this back to Endgame.
Yeah. But not us.
Better movie.
Yeah. Right. Well, I guess that draws this to a close then.
Yeah, on a very downbeat note, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, in regards to when we could be seeing the next episode,
most likely when Arrow ends.
Probably, yeah. We'll probably do some big Arrow special type thing.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we'll see what happens after that and how frequent it could be. I mean, to be fair, the main reason why we haven't recorded this season is because Mr. Daniel has said that he couldn't because he was in uni and he had terrible internet. But this week we thought let's just try it, and it's actually been absolutely fine. So,
yeah.
Turns out we could have recorded this entire season, but we haven't.
Well, looks like I need to come up with better excuses now.
Yeah,
all right. In my defense, this entire season of the Arrowverse has not been particularly great.
No, and also we haven't really. I don't really know if the podcast is particularly useful at this point, given the fact that you don't watch Supergirl. Well, neither of us do anymore. I don't watch Batwoman.
You don't watch Batwoman.
And Arrow's ending. It must just be a Flash podcast. Maybe this is the death of HTP alongside DC Central, which is also happening, as you guys probably know.
No. We got to last at least a little bit longer than DC Central.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and share this video with any of the DC TV fans, and let us know your thoughts on Crisis in the comments down below. Did you enjoy it? Have you found it underwhelming, or did you think it was outright shit? Whatever you thought, let us know in the comments below. And as always, guys, I've been Deck.
I've been Down.
And we hope to see you guys again next time, sometime in the multiverse, whenever that may be, and whatever timeline it may be. We will see you then. Goodbye.